Since Confederation in 1867, two parties have really grabbed the narrative of Canadian politics: the Liberals and the Conservatives. However, they weren't always called Conservatives. So a couple of months ago, I decided that it would be an interesting idea to take a deep look into the history of Conservatives in Canada. And today, it comes to an end. This is the final part of Conservatives in Canada. We're going to be talking about what happened from 2006 to the modern day. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and let's get started. Okay, so we left off right after the 2006 election where Stephen Harper is elected as the Prime Minister. He doesn't get a majority. He's actually quite far away from a majority. He's 31 seats away from majority. He got 124 seats. And Paul Martin is there in second with 103. He retires and he's no longer the leader of the Liberal Party after this election. And Stéphane Dion is now the leader of the Liberal Party. And what the Liberals try to do here with Dion as their leader is they try to overthrow, in a sense, Harper as the Prime Minister. Him, the Bloc, and the NDP are trying to make him the Prime Minister with some help from the NDP and the Bloc Québécois in ministerial positions to get the Conservatives out of power. So Stephen Harper won't be the Prime Minister anymore, and Stéphane Dion will be, with the help of the Bloc and the NDP. However, nothing materializes, and this scandal hurts so bad that after the next election in 2008, which is when all of this stuff happens, Stéphane Dion is gone. He's immediately gone. And in his place comes Michael Ignatieff. And Michael Ignatieff is actually going to be a really big asset, not to the Liberal Party, but a huge asset for the Conservatives. So, just to recap where we're off so far in Canadian history, Stephen Harper becomes Prime Minister in 2006. The next year, Paul Martin leaves the office of leader of the Liberal Party for Stéphane Dion, and he tries to overthrow Stephen Harper after the 2008 election, where the Conservatives actually go up in seats, but again, not quite a majority. So, he called this election anyways, right, just to see, and, he won bigger. Stéphane Dion, not a fan of this, retires, and this hurts his reputation and the reputation of the Liberal Party, and now they have Michael Ignatieff as their leader, who's going to turn out as an asset for the Conservatives, and we're going to find out really soon why. Okay, so initially, Michael Ignatieff seemed as an okay guy, right? He was very, very popular at the start of his leadership campaign. However, he really killed all of his support. I mean, as early as 2009, he was calling for an election against Harper because he felt that he would win. And let me tell you, the Canadian people do not like voting over and over and over again. They had an election in 2004. Then there was one called in 2006. There was one called in 2008. They were not about to have another one called in 2009. So his Ignatieff's polling numbers went straight down. Nobody wanted to vote for a guy who wanted you to vote for him, in a sense. Well, I mean, I put it in a weird way, but you're trying to, and I hope you understand what I mean. They didn't want to vote for someone who was forcing them to vote again. And even still into 2010, Ignatieff was pushing this, I want you to vote, really, really hard. And by 2011, he finally pushes forward a no-confidence vote against Stephen Harper, and it passes. Jack Layton's NDP voted for it. Gilles Ducep's Bloc Québécois voted for it. However, it really, really backfired for both the Liberals and actually the Bloc Québécois. The Bloc Québécois had one of their largest caucuses ever, and they were reduced to 4 seats. 4 seats in the entire House of Commons for the Bloc Québécois. It's their worst defeat in their history because they voted for a no-confidence deal. The Liberals went down so many seats. They were reduced to 32 seats in this election. 32 seats for the Liberal Party. They went in 3rd place. It's the lowest placement that the Liberal Party has ever been in their entire history. In Canadian history, it's the lowest that the Liberal Party has ever been. However, it really, the opposite about it. what's the opposite of backfired? The opposite of backfired for Jack Layton and the NDP, who finally found their breakthrough. They became official opposition with 103 seats, and the NDP were doing better than ever. And even the Conservatives were happy with the selection. They lost a no confidence vote, and they went up in seats 11. And now this 11 seats is actually very crucial because it got them over the seats needed for a majority. They got up to 166 seats, and they finally had the first Conservative majority in modern Conservative history. Because then there was Progressive Conservatives with Brian Mulroney. They had a majority in 1988. So I guess you could say first Conservative majority in 25 years. Or no, 23. Sorry, math's not good. 23 years. Or you could say, hey, it's the first Conservative majority, and to this day, only Conservative majority under the name Conservative Party of Canada. So Harper's loving this. Jack Layton's loving it. And so is Elizabeth May. She's the leader of the Green Party, and actually still is. But she's not really that important. She's not a conservative. She's on the left. So we're not going to talk about her much at all during this campaign. Unless when they get seats off the Conservatives, then it's important. So it's now 2011, where the Conservatives just won. They're doing great. The NDP's also doing great for a time, because then in August, Jack Layton dies, and it's sad. And the NDP, actually you'd expect their polling to go down. However, they're ahead of the polls for so long, and this worries the Conservatives. They aren't ahead in a single poll until what? Like September of 2019? If I'm reading, no, I'm not reading this right, am I? No, September of like 2017 or something. They're not ahead in the polls for a while, bro. The NDP and the Liberals are doing good. The Liberals are doing good now because they elected Justin Trudeau as their leader to replace Michael Ignatieff. They elected a Canadian, guys. Michael Ignatieff, people thought he was American because he lived in America for too long. Justin Trudeau, a Canadian. People thought he was hot, so he got that. Justin Trudeau is very popular. He soared the Liberals' approval ratings like in an instant. They started winning polls instantly after he got elected. So the Conservatives are now worried. Third in the polls, behind NDP, led by Tom Mulcair, believe it or not, and then the Liberals, led by Justin Trudeau. Everyone likes him at this point. So the Conservatives are worried. But you know what? There's really nothing to talk about, so let's talk about the 2015 election. Because in between those 4 years, nothing really of interest happened. 2015, very, very important election. The Conservatives lose. Stephen Harper loses. He goes down 60 seats. He goes down to 99. It's one of the worst in Conservative history. The 99 seats, one of the worst. But Conservatives are out there. The NDP goes down 51. But the Liberals soar. They go up very high above to 184 seats. Crazy. 184 seats is crazy. It's a majority. It's a majority for the Liberals. They win 39% of the popular vote. It's the first time that the Liberals have won the popular vote since 2004, and the only time between then and the most recent election in 2025 that the Liberals won the popular vote. So the Liberals are soaring high, and so are the Bloc. They're the only other party that gained seats. They gained 8 seats because they went down to 2 because there was this party called the Strength and Democracy Party that stole 2 of their votes. But you know what? Again, another leftist party. So we're only here to talk about the Liberals now on if we talk about the leftist party. And the Conservatives, that is what we care about. And they got beat. They got beat bad. Okay, so now Stephen Harper retires in 2015. And for a short while, for about 2 years, he's replaced with Rona Ambrose as the interim leader of the Conservative Party before the 2017 Conservative leadership election is held. There's a couple people on the ballot, but the only 2 that I want to talk about is Andrew Scheer and Maxime Bernier. Now, Maxime Bernier wins a lot of the ballots. I don't know how many ballots, maybe 12 ballots in a row. He wins. However, he didn't get a majority of 50%. Andrew Scheer then comes in on the final ballot, wins barely enough. He wins 51% of the popular votes in the Conservative leadership election and becomes the leader of the Conservative Party. Maxime Bernier then becomes salty and starts his own party called the People's Party of Canada. It's a party to the right of the Conservative Party, but can steal a lot of their votes. And the Conservatives started freaking out because here in Canada, we are a left-leaning country. So we can have 4 parties on the left and have the Liberals easily win majorities. But the Conservatives can't really have anything too big to the right that's fracturing them, like the People's Party. However, in the 2019 election, the People's Party didn't really seem to be doing much. They lost their seat of both, so Bernier, he's not in the House of Commons anymore. But he does win 294,000 votes. But the Conservatives get even more. 6 million. That's more than the Liberals. The Conservatives win the popular vote. However, Justin Trudeau, with first past the post, wins the election of 2019. The Bloc Québécois goes up, NDP goes down, but even the Greens go up to 3 seats. So now Andrew Scheer is faced with a decision. It's not that hard. He retires. He's no longer the leader of the Conservative Party. So, in December of 2019, Andrew Scheer announces his decision to step down as leader of the Conservative Party, and he officially does so on the 24th of August. And on that day, the ballots were announced that the winner of the Conservative leadership election of 2020 was Erin O'Toole. Erin O'Toole, the MP for Durham, would now be the leader of the the Conservative Party. And he doesn't have much time to do anything because in 2021, in August 2021, Justin Trudeau calls an election. And a lot of people didn't like this. They didn't like this because it was the middle of COVID. COVID is what? I'm sure you know what COVID is, but for the people in the future, massive pandemic. You couldn't really do anything. And now Justin Trudeau wants you to vote because people think that you're going to vote for him. And he wasn't necessarily wrong. He did get 5.5 million votes. However, Erin O'Toole still got more votes. Despite this, Erin O'Toole said, you know what? I'm going to stay on as leader. I lost the election, sure, but I didn't lose any seats. Sure, I didn't gain any, but I didn't lose any seats either. So I'm going to stay on as leader of the Conservative Party. Well, at least he doesn't announce that he's not going to stop being leader of the Conservative Party. And in February 2022, he gets overthrown by his caucus in favor of Candice Bergen. Well, at least temporarily, before the 2022 leadership election can be held. And the winner of that was Pierre Poilievre. But a couple years later, in 2025, it came out that India kind of cheated. Although, really, it was very, very minuscule. So, really, he won fair and square. Pierre Poilievre is now going to be the leader of the Conservative Party. Okay, so Pierre Poilievre comes in as leader in 2022. He's the first Conservative leader to have a significant challenge from the People's Party. I don't think in 2020 when Erin O'Toole came in that there was a significant challenge. But the People's Party in early 2022 was polling at 13% at times. The People's Party was doing insane. And the Conservatives were hella worried. However, as time went on, the People's Party went down and the Conservatives went up. And they went really up. In 2022, the Liberals were still ahead of the Conservatives, but by 2023, the gap was so close. And in 2023, the Conservatives passed the Liberals. In 2024, the entire year of 2024, the Liberals didn't win a single official poll. The Conservatives won every poll from around May 2023 to February 2025. All the polls were won by Conservatives, with one exception in September 2023, it was a tie. But the Conservatives, they were they were going hard, man. They were winning all the polls, and everyone was just like, yo, they're going to win a massive majority. Now, why were the Conservatives going to win a massive majority? Because the Liberals were falling. Justin Trudeau, not a popular guy. I mean, he hiked the carbon tax in April 2024, which made a lot of people angry. I even got a little angry with the hike of the carbon tax, let me be honest. But, you know what? Pierre Poilievre was polling great until people realized maybe he's not so great. I mean, think of what happened. What was the difference between February 2024 and February 2025? The president was a liberal in America. The prime minister had been in there for 8 years. There was no significant, really, push to get him out there. By February 2025, the president was a conservative, targeting Canada. The prime minister of Canada was resigning actively, and he was being replaced with someone even more popular. People started to really realize, I don't like this Pierre Poilievre guy. I'm not going to vote for him anymore. So they don't. In 2025, the Liberals win. They're 3 seats off from a majority government in the 2025 election, which would be the first majority government since 2015, and the first Liberal one since 2015. I don't know where I was going with that. But you know what? It would have been pretty historic. However, the Liberals did win the popular vote for the first time since 2015 and second time since 2004. So you know what? Good for them. But Pierre Poilievre, something interesting happens. He's been the MP for Carleton for 20 years. But you know what? In this election, they said, you know what? I'm not voting Conservative. I'm voting for the Liberals. And they did. They voted for Bruce Fanjoy of the Liberal Party, and Pierre Poilievre was booted out of his seat. He's not in the House of Commons anymore. And when this happens, they say you have to find a new opposition leader. So they pick Andrew Scheer. So there you are. There we have it. This is where we're at the current day in Canadian conservative history. There's one wild series that started all the way back. I made the first video in March when we talked about Sir John Macdonald all the way up until 1896, and now we're finishing with Stephen Harper all the way up to 2025. So this was pretty crazy. If you have anything to say, I'd love to hear it. I hope you enjoyed. And I just now realized I've said the name of every single prime minister in the series except for one. So I'm going to say it right now, Mark Carney. There you go. I said all of them in the series. That's a W, right?